We will attack if we find dirt. We will attack if we find dirt. We'll stop talking about Danny. I'm home, honey. Do you agree with how I feel? When I watched Full House for the first time, I was fully drawn into the Tanner family's world, which was full of funny and sad events. At that time, like a lot of other people, I wished I could live in Danny's cozy home and enjoy the happy times and learn from the daily lessons. Full House was a part of my life, and it seemed like everything was taken care of with love and care. I didn't know that Full House had a lot of secrets that not many people know about behind those nice scenes. Behind the scenes of a show that seemed perfect, there were some strange things that happened. Did you ever think that Danny Tanner, the perfect dad that we all loved, might have done something wrong with Becky during the 8 seasons? Or the fact that the director once hid the fact that the 3 main players were making drugs behind the scenes? There's also a fun fact about Candace Cameron Bure and Jodie Sweetin's first kiss, which, as it turned out, wasn't on screen as we all thought. Today, we're going to go behind the scenes of Full House again and look at the stories that not many people are brave enough to tell. 20i fans never knew the secret behind the scenes story of the Tanner trio and nitrous oxide. I still hear the front door of the Tanner house creak open when I think of Full House. Warm golden light spills into the living room. As the 3 goofy but likable uncles, Jesse, Joey, and Danny, walk in, they give off a soft, 90s era vibe. Many kids grew up with them because they made them feel safe and were the picture of an ideal family. But it wasn't until years later, when I started reading behind-the-scenes stories, that I understood how crazy and tiring the Full House set really was, especially when babies were involved. A member of the team remembered. Every scene took 4 hours some days because the twins would cry at different times. It seemed like someone had taken all the air out of the room. And while they were waiting for hours and hours, the 3 guys who were thought to have some of the cleanest looks on American TV ended up doing something rather strange. Nitrous oxide, the kind that makes people feel dizzy for a short time and is widely known as whippets, was still present in a corner of the set where cans of whipped cream were kept for the scenes with Michelle's birthday. It seemed like fate was pulling John Stamos toward one of the cans as he looked at it. It was picked up by Bob Saget, who grinned and gave it a little shake. "Hey, this still has gas in it. Do you want to try it?" Coulier got a skeptical look from Stamos. "You're really thinking about this?" Coulier just shrugged. "Hey, I'm really Joey Gladstone in real life. Hurry up, no one will see you." There was a small puff, and then another. The sound of fans humming, the smell of makeup powder, and the heat from the studio lights all came together to make it feel like a backstage area for a TV show in the 1980s or 1990s. Disorganized and worn out, but still humanly playful. Everything was okay. Until a crew member walked by and stopped for a second. Then ran to tell the director right away. After a few minutes, all 3 were lined up like boys who were in trouble and getting a harsh punishment. "Do not do that ever again." They both nodded and tried not to laugh. It wasn't a big deal yet, just a small story. In those days, it pulled back the curtain on what TV was really like. Behind the scenes of America's Happiest Family were people who were tired, silly, and very real. And this was just the start of the strange secrets that were kept behind the scenes of Full House. 19. The accident at the start that frees the whole Full House cast. Full House is known as sweet, clean, and well done. Behind the scenes, though, things weren't always so great. It was sometimes enough for one wrong move to silence the whole room. The episode The King and I had one of the most memorable examples. "Dear Candace Cameron," Bure DJ said, "remember that moment like it was yesterday." The whole set stopped talking. Danny Tanner, Bob Saget, and Becky Lori Loughlin were supposed to have a soft, almost romantic conversation in that scene. It was the kind of togetherness that the show was known for, family-friendly. But Bob Saget turned a little too fast when he tried to hit his mark. Brushed against Lori Loughlin's private parts by mistake. It only lasted a second, but it was enough to make Lori jump in shock. Bob Saget stopped moving, the team hold their breath for a moment, and a few camera operators look at each other as if to ask, "Did we really just see that?" Saget later said, "I swear it wasn't meant to be that way, but it was one of those times when you just want the floor to swallow you whole." Lori, who was always the professional, just laughed out loud and said it was the weirdest accident she'd ever had. From then on, telling the story at cast reunions was always a big hit, making everyone laugh out loud every time. And these unplanned, flawed moments are what make Full House feel more real and living. There was not only a clean comedy, but also one made by people who were awkward, clumsy, and always lovable. 18. Bob Saget's too far moment with the Michelle doll and the reason the whole set stopped moving. Danny Tanner was the perfect dad, and everyone who watched TV in the late 1980s knows him. He was so gentle, clean, and calm that it was hard to imagine him ever losing his cool. But those who worked behind the scenes knew something else. The person who plays the part and the person who works behind the camera almost never match up completely. And the best example of that was Bob Saget. In his spare time, he was a stand-up comic known for his strong adult humor and mischievous, silly style that didn't always work for family-friendly shows. That difference made one normal day of filming into one of the most shocking Full House behind-the-scenes stories. As they always do on shows with very young actors, the team used a life-size doll to stand in for Michelle while they changed the lights. It looked like it was sleeping as it slouched on a chair. As everyone rushed to get ready, Saget walked over and started playing with the doll on the spot, perhaps because he used to be a stand-up comedian. No one thought the joke would go so far. He picked up the doll, turned it into silly poses, and bounced it around like he was doing a bit. From a distance, it was clear that he wasn't supposed to be making those moves on a children's show set. The team wasn't sure if they should laugh or act like they didn't see it. Finally, someone on staff spoke up. Saget smiled and told Bob, "Don't go too far. It's just that I want to stay awake." But the deputy director rushed over right away. Bob's eyes got bigger. "Get off the screen, there are kids there." The mood changed right away. Saget stopped moving. He set the doll down gently, almost as if it were the real Michelle. "Gave it, I'm sorry," he said. Today, it's hard to picture what happened back then. But at the time, it was just a clash between his need to make adults laugh and the strict rules of a family show. A comedian just lost track of where he was for a second. There was no bad purpose, still, it's times like these that make the Full House backstage feel so real. And people that are a lot more real than the clean, perfect world you see on TV. 17. Dear Candace Cameron. The first time Beret and Jodie Sweetin kissed was on the set of Full House. The first kiss between Candace Cameron Bure, DJ Tana, and Jodie Sweetin, Stephanie Tana, didn't happen at school or a party. It happened somewhere else. It happened right there on the cast and crew's full set, under the hot studio lights, with dozens of people looking. In the show's early days, the plot called for a small, innocent moment. A simple kiss like a child's between DJ and Stephanie. Harmless in the story, but for the girls, it was a turning point they will never forget. Candace has a very clear memory of it. The kiss was filmed, and I still remember how it felt. I had never kissed anyone before that. Jodie Sweetin was also scared. After that, we felt so bad about ourselves that we couldn't even look at each other. But to be honest, it was also very sweet. As a kid, I did that with the show. The scene was short and easy, and it was over in an instant. But both of them will always remember it fondly. Not because of the kiss itself, but because it was the first time in their lives that they had ever done something like that. Things are happening where you least expect them to. It was that magic that made Full House so great. It wasn't just a show where kids played parts, real kids grew up right in front of the crowd. 16. Bob Saget in real life cursed a lot. When I think of Danny Tanner, I always picture a gentle father who knows how to handle any family problem with calm. Some people know that Bob Saget was not at all what he seemed to be on TV. He was not the perfect dad. A side that the crowd probably didn't think of. Bob Saget was often told off for using bad language on the Full House set. "We had to keep telling Bob to be careful because there are kids here," one crew member said. "Oh, I forgot, Dave Coulier," Saget would say with a laugh. A close friend of Saget also said, at that time, Bob was the funniest person on set, but his jokes were more for adults. Some people didn't get it. Even though Bob Saget is known for his crude humor, he was able to play Danny Tanner in a way that was both strict and friendly. The difference between Danny's image and Saget's real self was what made him so appealing. This kind of story made me love Full House even more. Because what we saw on screen was always lovely and sweet, no matter what went on behind the scenes. 15. The show about Pam Tanner's death almost got banned. At a time when family TV was mostly happy and lighthearted, adding a sad event to Full House's story caused a lot of controversy. Did you know that the death of Pam Tanner, the mother of the Tanner girls, almost got banned? ABC at first didn't want to use this script because they thought it was too serious for a family comedy. A producer said that they didn't think Pam's death fit with the show's general tone and that it would make people feel bad. But the people who made Full House were set on keeping it because they thought it would make the story more emotional. In an interview, Bob Saget said that this choice made him feel very deeply. In the end, the script didn't change, but Pam Tanner's death caused a big change in the plot that made the characters closer to each other. Full House was not only about a family, but also about getting through hard times and seeing death. 14. John Stamos almost got rid of the Olsen twins. As John Stamos, the coolest uncle in the Tanner family, said in an interview, "Can you believe that it was actually John Stamos who couldn't handle the crying of the Olsen twins? We couldn't shoot because the twins were crying so much." Someone on the group also said, "John said we can't do this. Let's get some more twins." Eddie also said that we actually called in a different set of red-haired twins to take their place. But Stamos sighed after only a few hours of the test shoot. "This doesn't work. Bring back the first twins." Dave Coulier laughed as he thought about it. "John then told me I was wrong. Cameron said that Michelle could not be replaced." That afternoon, people tried things, made mistakes, and even made decisions at the last minute to make the warm pictures we saw back then. The crew had to keep making changes to make the Full House we all grew up with, and this story is just one part of that process. 13. The Foolish Mistake. Jesse finished but then stopped going to school. Jesse was a 1980s hero when Full House first aired. He was good-looking, a little rebellious, and full of love. But when I watched the whole series again, there was one silly mistake that made me laugh that most people probably didn't notice. In season 3, Jesse went back to his high school reunion and told everyone how happy he was to have graduated. During the season where he got married, he even said that he felt bad that he never wore a college cap. But by season 6, Jesse's story had changed a lot. He told her that he had quit school and was now going back to get his diploma. Each of these 3 stories took place in a different season, making it seem like the character had 3 different lives. One editor says that the shooting schedule was always getting thrown off, and continuity was often forgotten. Someone else said that back then, no one thought that people would watch these shows over and over again. It made Stamos laugh when he was asked. "I have no idea where Jesse went to school after that." It's interesting that this mistake didn't change how much people loved Jesse. The way it looks shows how real old TV used to be. There were times when things were rushed and rough, but that's what made it warm. And maybe it's this flaw that made Full House so unique. 12. Little Richard hit Jodie Sweetin by accident while playing. One scene from the special episode of Full House that I always remember is when Little Richard played his famous piano piece. But there's something not many people know about that scene. He hit Stephanie, played by Jodie Sweetin, by mistake when she was too close to him. "I was just standing there and all of a sudden I got hit," Jodie Sweetin remembers. "Even though I didn't believe it, everyone laughed and said, that was a funny accident." Also, Little Richard said, "I didn't know she was too close, so when I swung my arm, it hit her. But everything turned out okay, and it was a funny story on set." It's interesting how these small mistakes that no one thinks about can become important parts of a movie that people will remember and love. Out of all 193 episodes, only 3 stars were in them. People often think that the main group was there for all 8 seasons, but it turns out that only 3 people were there the whole time. I remember that John Stamos never missed a show. Dave Coolidge also said, "Neither do I." She also said, "Stephanie grew up with the show, so I was always there." But Bob Saget took a light laugh. "I didn't go on the first flight. John Posey got that part. As far as I can remember, we shot the pilot and then switched Danny." When asked, Candace Cameron laughed and shook her head. Back then, things changed really quickly. It's interesting that this small element didn't make the series less connected as a whole. On the contrary, it makes us remember that each character and show was a sign of how quickly TV at the time had to keep up with the schedule and the freedom of each day of shooting. And when we know this, we value the times that have become cherished memories in many homes. 10. Oh My Lantern was made up by Candace Cameron. When I was younger, my friends and I would watch Full House together, and DJ Tanner's saying, "Oh My Lantern," would always make us laugh out loud. Did you know that this line wasn't in the original script? In fact, Candace Cameron came up with the idea for the DJ. Candy remembers, I didn't want to say oh my god because I grew up in a religious family. I had to come up with another option. That's where Oh My Lantern got its start. Even though it was just a replacement term at first, it quickly became something that made DJ unique and an important part of Full House. Thoughts: it's interesting to consider how seemingly small choices like this can have big effects on the viewers. The line Oh My Lantern was always linked to DJ Tanner in Full House. When I watch old tapes of Full House again, I remember how we never paid attention to the credits at the end of shows. The black and white screen, the fast-moving images, and the fact that would often leave right after the theme song. But there is a small thing you might have noticed 30 years ago if you had paid attention. There was only one girl named Mary-Kate Ashley Olsen in the credits from Season 2 to Season 7, making it look like she was played by only one girl. Someone on the group once said, "We did that to stay out of trouble with the law." John Stamos remembers that the girl switched roles and played. We didn't want people to pay too much attention, though. In a show about the past, Candace Cameron said, "It's interesting that those few lines of text held a secret we never knew." Before Season 8, when the twins were older, they were only given their first names. Of course, secrets like these are just one way that the crew had to handle the details of making a show that looked easy. 8. San Francisco was only used to film one episode. We always think of sunny San Francisco with its steep hills and the famous Golden Gate Bridge when we watch Full House. But did you know that San Francisco was only used to film one show out of the 8 seasons? In Season 8, the only time the team chose to shoot outside of Warner Brothers was in the episode Comet's Excellent Adventure. A member of the crew says, "When we were making the show, we filmed most of it in Los Angeles to save money and time. We only planned to film that one show in San Francisco because it had to have something to do with the city." But the iconic San Francisco scenery made a big impact on people, even though it was only one episode. Even though it was a shot from the outside, it showed how Full House was different from other comedies at the time. It's possible that every shot in Full House felt a little special because only one episode was shot there. It was like there was a memory in every frame. 7. The seasons changed how old Jesse was. I remember very clearly watching Full House and how each show felt like a new part of the character's growth. I also just noticed that Gia, Stephanie's best friend, has always changed in a strange way when I look back. Gia told Stephanie she was 2 years older and in a different grade the first time we met. As their friendship grew, though, they found that they were the same age. Someone on the crew remembers that Gia told them she was 2 years older than Stephanie when they shot the first scenes. As their friendship grew, though, we chose to make them the same age. It made me laugh to think about how the producers changed the personalities to fit the story without always giving a lot of background. And it was these small changes that kept Full House a safe place for viewers to grow along with the characters and look into life. 6th, Stephanie was given the part in just 5 minutes. Stephanie Tanner, the smart and likable girl who was in every episode of Full House, is easy to spot when you watch it again. But have you ever thought about why Jodie Sweetin was cast as Stephanie? The choice to cast Jodie in this part came together so quickly that no one could have imagined it. The makers chose she's Stephanie in just 5 minutes. For Jodie Sweetin, it was like she walked into the casting room and read a line. Everyone looked at her, then decided right away that this girl is Stephanie. Someone on the crew said, "We've never had to make a decision so quickly." It was clear when we saw Jodie, though. That a simple moment like this could turn a figure into a fan favorite is interesting to think about. And now that we think about it, this is one reason why Full House is so great. It wasn't just about big choices, there were also little surprises. 7. Jesse's last name was changed without a reason. This is a small but interesting detail that some viewers may miss when they watch Full House again. Do you remember the cute uncle of the Tanner family named Jesse Katsopoulos? The picture of Jesse became a sign of cute defiance. But not many people know that his last name wasn't Katsopoulos in the first season. Yes, his name was Jesse Cochran. However, that name went overnight in the following season for no apparent reason. A member of the team said that John Stamos asked for the character's last name to be changed. He thought Jesse should have more Greek roots. Bob Saget remembered, "We just got the new script, and Jesse's last name has changed." It's interesting to think that something so small could change how we see a character. After the fact, Stamos said, "I just wanted my character to have a bit of Greek culture." Even though the show didn't say anything about it, the crowd just took it as truth. This shows that big changes can happen in a show in small ways, like with a small plot point. 6th, red gummies used to have power over the Olsen twins. The Olsen twins, Mary-Kate and Ashley, were led by the team using sweets. This is one of the most interesting little-known facts about Full House. The group used red gummies to get the twins to look at the camera so they could make the exact faces they needed for the scenes. That was the only way to get them to work together and make shots that looked natural. To keep the twins' attention, the team used gummies. The gummies also helped them change their faces and the angle of each shot. Even though it sounds silly, can you think that such a small candy could help the crew get through tough scenes with child actors? It turns out that the writing or director aren't always responsible for how professional the show is. Sometimes, little things like these make it even cuter and more charming. 5. A crew member accidentally showed up in a shot when I watched Full House again. I will always remember the happy times and fun with the Tanner family. But there's one thing about one show that not many people notice. A crew member showed up in a shot by mistake. Yes, in episode 2. The head of a crew member slowly moves out of the picture when Joey wears a red shirt. After a laugh, someone on the team says, "We had to be careful in every shot." But one time, a film crew member didn't get out of the way in time, and his head showed up in the scene. This didn't happen very often because Full House always paid close attention to every shot. But maybe this lack of care made the show feel even more personal, like the viewers were part of the Tanner family. This short story shows that even small mistakes can become important parts of a movie, making us love it even more. 4. Gia's age changed from season to season. I remember watching Full House and how each show felt like a new part of the characters growing up. Also, I just realized Gia is older now that I think about it. Her best friend Stephanie changed in strange ways all the time. Gia told Stephanie she was 2 years older and in a different grade the first time we met. They became friends quickly, though, and they were both the same age. A member of the crew remembers, "This made me laugh because I thought about how the producers changed the characters to fit the story sometimes without much explanation. And it was these small changes that kept Full House a safe place for viewers to grow with the characters and learn about life in general." It is not in Painted Ladies Row where the Tanner family house is. Have you ever thought that the famous San Francisco spot where the magnificent Victorian-style house in Full House was filmed was actually in that house? Hey, did you know that the Tanner family house wasn't really on the famous Painted Ladies Row? When I turned on Full House, I felt like I was watching a beloved scene with Danny Tanner's car moving through the well-known neighborhood. The Tanner family home isn't really in the Painted Ladies area, though. The real location of the house is 1709 Broderick Street, which is only about a mile from the Painted Ladies. A member of the group said that the shot from the Painted Ladies row makes people think that the Tanner house is in that row. Even though the house wasn't in a well-known area, Full House made you feel like you knew the Tanner family and that they really did live in a special place. A few clever shots would sometimes make us believe a story, even if it wasn't really true. 1. Bob Saget almost got fired from the part of Danny Tanner. If you think of Full House, you'll always think of Bob Saget as Danny Tanner, who was both friendly and strict. But not many people know that Bob Saget almost didn't get the part at first. Danny's part was first given to John Posey, who had already shot the show's pilot. However, Bob Saget was picked to replace him at the last minute. A member of the team remembers, "We filmed the pilot with John Posey, but the producers changed it when we were getting ready to film the main episodes. Bob Saget was called right away. No one could have seen this coming, but it caused a big change. Saget had to take on the part right away because he was busy with another show at the time. It turned out that these off-the-wall choices helped make Full House have one of our favorite personalities. It wasn't meant for Bob Saget to become an essential part of the show by playing a perfect dad, but he did. We now know some interesting facts about what goes on behind the scenes of Full House. Are these stories a surprise to you? Leave a comment below the video with your thoughts. Please like, share, and follow if you enjoyed this video so that you don't miss any more cool ones. We'll have more fun tales from behind the scenes for you soon. Thanks for seeing.